Hello and welcome to Overdrive. I'm Shireen Bhan. It's time for us to start the show in Pondicherry as Sirish brings us the latest on Renault's India plans.
The Renault badge needs no introduction in India. After all, we've seen the diamond stuck on the back of so many Logans over the past few years. But that is exactly why this badge needs an introduction, or rather a reintroduction. The Logan is no more. Mahindra has renamed it the Verito and Renault has nothing to do with the car. In fact, Renault is busy repositioning itself as a more premium, slightly posher and more upmarket brand focusing on French design flair. And the entire exercise starts with this car, with the Fluence. Launched globally in 2009, the Fluence is based on the Renault Samsung SM3 sedan sold in South Korea. Sporting the longest wheelbase in its class, it is a good-looking, but slightly quirky car with its short, stout nose, high-waisted rear end, and long cabin tucked into the middle. At the front, the Renault Diamond takes center stage, underlined by a long, narrow grille and flanked by striking wraparound headlamps. Plenty of grooves and slashes give the Fluence some French flair, and the 16-inch alloy wheels and wide stance give it attention-grabbing presence. At launch, both petrol and diesel engines will be available, but somehow Renault have got this whole variant mix a bit wrong. In fact, there are no variants. The petrol will have beige interiors with leather seats, climate control, the works, everything loaded, including a CVT automatic gearbox, whereas the diesel gets this all black interiors. Now Renault says this is to make the diesel look a bit sporty. Come on, this engine is not a sporty engine. And also, this all black interiors, it makes the cabin look a bit gloomy. Also, there's too much of cost cutting in this cabin. For instance, there is no leather wrapped steering wheel, and I think that is the absolute must in a car costing over 10 lakh rupees. This kind of cost cutting, it is a bit jarring, and it lets down a cabin which actually is quite well laid out and is quite nice to be in. This engine, now it's a very familiar unit. It's the same 1.5 DCI engine that was first seen in India on the Logan. It is the same engine that does duty in the Micra diesel, and now in the Fluence, it makes 106 horsepower. It doesn't sound like a whole lot of power, especially for a car of this size and weight, but then when you take into account the fact that the Corolla diesel makes only 87 horsepower, well, this seems quite alright. And the engine is actually tuned quite well for Indian driving conditions, so you rarely find the lack of power. It moves quite briskly, the turbo spools up quickly, the responses are good, and it has very good fuel efficiency. The ARAI claimed fuel efficiency at 21.84 kmpl is actually the best in class, and that will be a big talking point for this car. Cars of this class are supposed to be comfortable, and the Fluence does a very good job on that front. The cabin is roomy and spacious, the ride quality is compliant without being too soft or too mushy, and the handling is good. There is of course body roll, but the front end grips quite well, and it is a confidence-inspiring car. Overall, this is a nice, comfortable car to be doing long distances quickly. At the end of the day, nobody or nothing is going to break into a sweat in this car. And that is the diesel. A surprisingly good package, especially with the familiar 1.5 DCI diesel engine that's let down only by the interior trim. And as I saw in the petrol, good interiors can make a huge difference. Now this is more like it. Now I'm not saying that a bucket of beige has to be thrown into the interior of every car, but just look at it. It immediately feels more premium. It immediately feels a notch higher. And then you start to appreciate the nice details. For instance, the soft touch plastic on the top of the dash, it looks and feels premium. All versions get keyless entry. You don't even have to keep the key in the slot. You can just keep it in your pocket and use the start stop button. And then it is fully loaded. Climate control, ESP, traction control, cruise control, Bluetooth, everything that you could want is there except for one thing. The seats, they don't have electric adjust, it's only manual adjust. And then there are small details that niggle. For instance, the volume controls are on the stalk over here, which is not an intuitive way to operate it. To operate the cruise control, you activate a switch over here, then use the steering wheel controls. Again, not intuitive. The panel for the stereo, the buttons are just too small. Same with the climate control, the buttons are too small. These are small details, but it just doesn't do good to the whole premium experience of the Fluence. And to really enjoy the premium experience, you have to be in the back. So I let Sandeep have the wheel and settle down. Now the Fluence is half a size bigger than the Corolla, and that's why it has more cabin room. Now Sandeep, he's a 6'8" giant, but still I can fit in comfortably behind him, and that is a big plus point of the Fluence's cabin. Renault is serious about India, and of that there can be no question. By end of this month, there'll be 12 dealers operational. By end of the year, there'll be 40, and by end of next year, there'll be 100 Renault outlets in India, and so you will find a Renault dealership somewhere close to you. And they have a good model mix in the pipeline. 2 cars this year, including the Koleos by Diwali, 3 cars next year, including the Duster, which makes brilliant sense for India, and an all-new hatchback, and serious investment into the brand. The Fluence, now that's a good car to restart their operations with. But end of the day, what matters is pricing. Between 12 to 13 lakh rupees, now that will make the Fluence a good alternative to the Corolla, which is right now the best seller in that segment. Any more, the car could have some problems. But if Renault gets the pricing right, the Fluence will be the ideal car to kickstart the second innings in India.